Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films. We're going to take a look at some Aeneas Peebles film from the Ravens' dominant defensive performance in Week 2 against the Vikings. Peebles was explosive, efficient, but yet also very technically sound, in my opinion. This is what I would consider to be Jesse Minter's almost like a drive starter to him. He uses this at the beginning of games, drives, etc. And what I'm talking about is blitzing the safety, I believe that's Keon Wallace, off the edge. Additional to that, what's happening with the defensive line is they're slanting away from the safety blitz, and that's just to complement what's happening as far as the blitz structure. Now, from a Peebles standpoint, this is the play that everyone talked about on social media. Great get off. He had that multiple times during the game. He was the first guy to cross the line of scrimmage, the first guy to get, a yard deep into the backfield. I have one curiously slow or slower get off the snap, but this is not it. So as he's stepping across the line of scrimmage, the center's going to step to him. So one of the things you do when you're anticipating a zone scheme or a particular call for the defensive line is if an offensive lineman steps to you while you're slanting, you get upfield, and you get upfield immediately. This looks seamless. The reaction here from Peebles is seamless. He doesn't know the play, right? So theoretically, on this slant, we could be slanting with the direction of the flow. So, for example, all of these offensive linemen could be working in this direction. And so Peebles, when he slants, would not get the center stepping to him like actually occurs. He could get the center stepping away. So his reaction would be different. He wouldn't be getting upfield. He would be running along the heels of that defensive line because presumably it would be zoned away from him. It's a quick reaction. Don't get me wrong. The slant is predetermined. You get a great view or a great angle view of him getting across the line here. I love the spot shadow feature. Myself and a couple of other people are using it this year. Especially, I like the 1.5 magnification that Once Sports offers. And that's what this one is. You can zoom in enough that hopefully we can still retain the clarity from the all-22 or sideline coach's angle. First guy across the line of scrimmage, first guy at 1 yard depth. Other than the safety, when we talk about that, comparing defensive linemen and their get-off, we're not referring to safeties who are blitzing free off the edge. He's not going to be quicker than that guy, although it's close. Peebles getting upfield. He's a disruptive influence. I think he's obviously going to make the 53-man roster. I don't think there's any question about that at this point. We've got an early third down. In fact, it's the first one that the Ravens defense faced, and we're showing a mug look on this 3rd and 7. He's spot shadowed in purple and black there. There's going to be a good pressure, if you ask me, off the right side of the Vikings offensive line. It's Zion Young and Aeneas Peebles. He starts to remind me here of a young Matabike, to be honest with you. It's the activity level, but also the ability to start to string together a move. And in this case, he's trying to slap with the right arm, the inside arm, and then possibly swim over the top with the left, or at least feed the guard's left arm to Peebles' left arm so that he can maybe not swim all the way over the top, but you can see he's swatting with the inside hand. He starts to remind me of Matabike from the standpoint of beginning to string together a move, or maybe 2 moves, and then recognizing quickly, okay, that didn't work. Let me just start to drive this guy back into the quarterback. And you can see him and Zion Young create pressure. Maybe that's why he doesn't get credit for a quarterback hit here, is because he used the guard to hit the quarterback instead. McCarthy took a beating early in this game. I felt like they needed to get him out of there, off the field, for multiple reasons. These 3 guys illustrated by those purple lines are dropping out. Like I said, the pressure, obviously, you've seen it multiple times at this point, comes from Peebles up the middle, so to speak, and Zion Young walking the right tackle back into McCarthy's lap. Here we've got another slant and then reaction from Peebles. This is another drive starter from Minter and Weaver. It's the first possession still, but it's a new sequence or series of downs. So they're going to bring the safety Wallace off the edge one more time. And the way that this works, perhaps drawn up a little bit better, Young slanting or stunting to the inside. He should be trying to get into the B gap, but Young oftentimes just runs through this guy's face. These two, Broderick Washington and Peebles, are slanting to the next defensive lineman. Sometimes you slant over into another gap, and sometimes you just slant into the defensive lineman. That's just different ways to get it done. This is a great play by the two DBs. Wallace blitzing off the edge, and Martin stepping through as the two tight ends go to double Mike Green. So in terms of what's happening here with Peebles, he's lined up in a 3 technique. There's the midline. So he's lined up in the B gap, outside shade, although he's kind of canted a little bit towards the tackle that he's stepping to. So maybe he's giving it away slightly, ever so slightly. Very quick off the ball here. I wonder if some of his better reps or the examples of his get off aren't when he's slanting. It's one of the things I'm very interested in. Just so you know, it's 12 personnel for the Vikings, and the Ravens are in a nickel structure. So let me pull this back just a little bit. We're not going to show the all 22 angle for most of these. You can see Keon Martin is on the field. So I think that Minter and Weaver are using safety blitzes, slants, and sometimes a combination of both of them to account for the additional gaps once you've got two tight ends on the field. Hopefully I said all that in a way that makes sense. If you guys would like to see me explore that topic a little more, I can. I'd like to get something out for Friday morning leading up to the game. I love the violence with which our defensive line is playing. I think Broderick Washington's playing really well also. Both of these guys slant across. He's now outside the tackle, Peebles. Broderick has also, they're kind of in a mirrored position. He's also been able to cross face. So I'm talking about Broderick crossing the center's face into this gap. Peebles eventually crossing the tackle's face into this gap. Now, Peebles does get turned a little bit, so I wonder if later in the play here we're not looking at an example of someone being able to, I don't want to say overpower, but being able to move him a little bit. It's also possible that Peebles saw where this run concept could go and started to fold back inside. It didn't matter because Wallace and Martin blew the whole damn thing up. All right, we're into the second possession here. I'll be honest with you, this play is one that I avoided talking about in the reaction video because sometimes your eyes see something and you're not sure. I thought he got scooped here. This is on the second possession. This is preceding McCarthy's 50-yard bomb that sets up the goal line situation where, Minnesota's offense short-circuited. It's a really nice job by Broderick Washington. But let me talk about Aeneas Peebles first. I like to zoom in here. I feel like the magnification, like I said, holds. If it does not, it's too, fuzzy for you guys. Please let me know. But I thought he got scooped, and I was a little disappointed. So scooped would mean, with the run concept going away from him, that the backside tackle would be able to take him over. And that's not what happens here. So Minnesota steps the backside tackle to an edge defender. I think it's Burke that you can't see. And then the guard steps to Peebles. It's a toss play. Real nice job by Broderick Washington, even though he's in this kind of weird stance before the snap. Yes, it looks like the running back should cut it downhill. Here's Peebles. He does escape the right way, meaning he chops down on the arm or pushes it aside with his left hand, his backside hand, because the ball's going away from him. So his right side would be front side, his left hand would be the backside hand. But Broderick ends up kind of dissuading the running back from jumping through this lane. I feel like Minnesota's done a really good job here with the nose tackle Jenkins to the backside inside linebacker. 60 bumped us pretty good. And then the center took him over. So look at the lane that's there. Broderick kind of hedges back here a little bit, just enough to dissuade 21 from trying to go there. In addition, we've got a safety filling. So even if the running back takes it, we can still stop it. It's not going to be a huge gain. And then Broderick goes underneath of this offensive lineman. It's a really slick move, if you ask me. Jumps back to the inside, goes underneath. It's him and Kone on the tackle, but there's someone else there. I think it is the frontside inside linebacker, Jay Higgins. Hopefully you guys don't mind, the film being slowed down, number one, and number two. Hopefully it runs at a somewhat smooth rate. This is still on that same second drive for Minnesota after the 50-yard bomb has set them up, down there near our goal line. 3rd and 3, and Minnesota's going 11 personnel to run the football. We're not stunting anyone. We're not trying to cover up gaps. We are, however, or at least Broderick Washington is, however, he's kind of swimming over the top of this left guard. I've already talked about this play in a separate video, a standalone video I did on our goal line defense, our new goal line defense look. This is not it. Just so you know, this is a regular base nickel look. Like I said, I'll give you the end zone angle. Dominic DeLuca smashes into the center. I think he's helped out a little bit because the center and the left guard's legs get intertwined, partially because of Broderick Washington's swim over the top. As far as Peebles, he's being doubled or comboed by the right guard and right tackle, which is, it's a 3 technique. That's going to happen. And he's starting to dig those cleats into the ground. You can see Peebles' cleats here, as well as the left foot possibly starting to anchor down with the left knee and the left hip so that he can't be moved. You can see he's really torquing with that left foot to try to hold his ground and give other guys a chance to make the play. And he's successful here, if you ask me. So they are, base blocking the defensive end, edge defender over here. The combo is occurring on Peebles. It's a great move from Broderick Washington, okay? If you don't like Broderick Washington, he's playing very well this preseason. I got bad news for you. It's a swim by Broderick over the top. Now, I think that Peebles does his job, and what I mean by this is, as a 3 technique, conceptually one of your jobs, I'm not saying that he's actively thinking of this, but to hold your ground against a combo block, we've got to allow guys to scrape and fold over the top. I mean inside linebackers, and that's what Higgins does. In addition, Wallace gets involved here as well, maybe a little bit late. Wallace is checking the boundary side receiver visually real quick. We're talking about where Wallace is looking now, and then he will veer his attention to the boundary side receiver. I think Peebles does a good job here. I don't think he's ever going to be, a dominant 3 technique against the run, maybe just because of size, but he's got a great get off, launches himself low here. He understands the job. He understands the assignment, right? That it's 11 personnel, but the quarterback, in this case McCarthy, is under center. So that's letting you know you could have a downhill run concept. And that's, lo and behold, that's what it becomes. We stop Claiborne, obviously setting up the 4th and 1 or 4th and goal from the 1, where McCarthy misses the throw. We've moved on to the 4th possession here. I'm going to move this forward a little bit just so you can see the outcome of the play. And then I'll rewind it and talk about Peebles a little bit. Some of the stuff I like that he's doing. This is Ethan Burke's quarterback hit on McCarthy. I mean, just decks him. And then the very next snap, I think it's Rucker gets a hit on McCarthy as well. We've got a pair of 2-man stunts happening here. Burke is the guy working with Broderick Washington off the right-hand side of our screen, the left-hand side of the Ravens' defensive line. They motion the tight end across, and we go with a 4-man rush concept. This is going to be, I think, imperative during the year that we get pressure with 4. We're not talking about probably any of these guys being on the field in those moments in the regular season, but we're trying to develop players. The only guy I see here who could possibly actually be on the field in some of those situations could be Peebles. He's first of all, he's got a long way to go here to stunt all the way around from an A-gap position. Second of all, I do like the fact that he tries to stay tight to the wall. Some guys loop too far around. And in this case, I think he appears confident with his technique to me. So the edge defender is taking the tackle into the guard. And so you can see he's got a 2-for-1 that we're trying to get developed here. Peebles is looping around. Burke with the hit. Now, Peebles does end up on top of the quarterback, but that was because he was pushed by this offensive lineman here. So it's not like he was doing anything dirty, if you ask me. Very next snap, and once again, Peebles doesn't get credit for a quarterback hit here. Maybe he's, quote, late, too late to achieve that or be awarded that. But we do get pressure from Rucker. He does get chipped by the tight end on the left, and then takes over the left tackle, and still gets to the quarterback. We got another stunt from a 4-man pass rush dynamic. So what I'm talking about is Peebles, illustrated by that yellow line, is going to try to take the center, or the left guard, into the center, and then Broderick is going to loop around. Now, Broderick is coming downhill first. My orange line there is a little bit misleading. but it's a four-man rush concept. We're occupying the right guard with the mugged up or walked up inside linebacker. Minter and Weaver specialize in this stuff so far, walking up one inside backer, sometimes blitzing him, sometimes he's responsible for the running back man, but oftentimes they're dropping that guy out and then bringing the other one. Now, that does not occur here. This is an organic four-man rush. Well, there's a game being played, and Peebles, watch him squeeze through here and then still get to the quarterback, McCarthy. McCarthy takes a shot here as the ball is delivered. There's the ball. There's Peebles. We're all over this guy. I mean, this has been a violent film to watch all week of our defensive line. And in fact, the Ravens and the Lions defensive lines both were extremely physical this past week. The Lions, obviously had struggles on defense last year, not necessarily like ours, but getting to the quarterback is imperative for both of these teams. Detroit's pass rush production last year was a whole lot better than the Ravens. Jack Campbell had 5 sacks. Aiden Hutchinson had, I think, 14 and a half, or maybe it was 13 and a half. Muhammad had 11 and a half. The Ravens didn't get any production like that for a lot of reasons. Peebles is a guy who can play a factor or a role in some of these type of moments. Four-man rush, there's a design element to it, and you're asking him to either be the beneficiary of a stunt or a pick, or in this case, run the pick, and then still manage to split 2 offensive linemen to try to get to the quarterback. I've got one more play here to talk about with Peebles. You get the idea. I'm very impressed with his play, his technique, his violence. Appears very strong. I don't know what he's weighing these days, but he looks a little heavier, perhaps, to me. Definitely his shock of offensive linemen has improved from last year, and you get an idea on this snap. He's going to be faced up against the right guard. It's like a snatch swim, if you will. Other people have different names for it. So basically, you've got split zone, and the running back is coming to his side. I think that's Isaac on the bottom side, really closes this space down. So 50, the edge defender on the bottom side, really closes space on this tight end. Split zone is a pain for the defense because the running back can hit it. You can hit it front side, 1 or 2 gaps, or he can bring it back underneath of this kick-out block, which is what makes it, a really cool play from an offensive standpoint. Let's look at the end zone angle, and we'll zoom in or magnify again. Here's Peebles. Snatch, swim, whatever other people want to call it, I'm comfortable with. It's a great move. It's one-on-one from your 3 technique. 3 technique, not doubled, not comboed. You got to win. Maybe, I'm not talking about 100% of the time, but you've got to be able to do this to win. Will he be able to do that against starting guards? I don't know, but he looks fantastic this preseason, in my opinion. I don't think that Peebles had a tackle or anything registered in the first game against the Eagles, if memory serves. I have no idea what Jay Higgins doing airplaning here in the middle of the play, but he might be communicating something to 47, possibly the fact that the tight end is working across. I'm just not aware that you need to airplane to do that, but it's a great move from Peebles. Perhaps I could have led with this one. One of my favorite plays from the Ravens so far this preseason defensively, because we get a guy perceived as developmental last year to be demonstrating a whole lot of good things for us right now, one of which is just to be an ass-kicking 3 technique and win with a snatch swim one-on-one instantly. I'll be honest with you, I was not as big of a fan of the draft pick last year as others. Nonetheless, I did recognize that there was pass rush potential, pass rush juice, if you will, from his college film at Virginia Tech. And I do wish that he got more snaps last year during the regular season. I didn't have the same level of intensity, same disappointment to a degree as others. I didn't think Peebles earned some of it, to be honest with you. Having said that, there was pass rush potential for him that perhaps could have been developed under the previous defensive staff a little bit sooner. I'm glad we have the guys that we have here. Weaver, in particular, for the defensive lineman. Calais Campbell, I'm sure, is playing a role or a factor with some of these young guys. Aeneas Peebles looks fantastic to me. He's got big shoes to live up to, man, wearing number 90. That's That's one of my favorite players in Ravens, history, Pernell McPhee. Um, Peebles is a three technique to me: penetrating and or slanting stunting. I'm not saying he can't play the nose some at times, because you can certainly slant or stunt from those locations as well. I think he's on this team, the 53 initially, but I recognize there's a lot of talent there, and there's time between now. Look, there's time between now and when that occurs. I have no doubt that we're getting calls already about some of our young defensive talent, because they appear to have leveled up quickly in many cases. Okoye would be one of them. I could have talked about Okoye on the last play, the snatch swim from a Peebles standpoint, even though it was like a 3 or 4 yard gain, I think, for Scott. I'm sure that we're getting calls about some of our defensive players, because the depth that's there, the development that's on film. And so from that standpoint, it's possible that one of the young guys and or Broderick Washington gets traded, because we don't want to release one of them. I think the film is so good that if Peebles is looked at as someone who will not or won't, possibly won't make the 53, that we, would have every reason to look at trying to at least acquire something for him. Personally, if I had to choose between the two, Peebles or Broderick Washington, I would probably choose Peebles at that time, and that's a switch for me, to be honest with you. I feel like Broderick is playing well, but Peebles looks more explosive, has a better get off. We already kind of have guys who can do what Broderick does. I'd like to see Peebles' development continue here in Baltimore, and how far he can push this thing and get into the rotation potentially. Broderick has been in that rotation before and not been productive. We have a ton of D-line depth at this point in time. Okoye, Washington, Peebles, look like they're competing with each other, and they're all playing extremely well. Peebles getting off the ball, being violent with his hands, being unselfish as well, I think is important on some of these stunts and or slants picks. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments section. In addition, if you think other Ravens fans would like to hear my thoughts on Aeneas Peebles, Broderick Washington, Okoye to a lesser extent, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy all of that, as well as the film that I used to illustrate my points, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.